Good day to you. Here I am again. My name is Mecyll. I'm a self-published author. If you're new to my channel, I invite you to subscribe and follow me on my social media. Today we're driving around Frick, Switzerland. Actually, this is the first time that I drove around Switzerland, and it was quite a journey because we visited different places and discovered a bit on the other side of Switzerland, which is around Frick. As you can see, there's a lot of industrial infrastructures around, and it's kind of mixed up with the greeneries around, which is not really like, well, if you think of Switzerland, the first thing you have in mind is the Alps, and it's not the industrial side of Switzerland, but we're in Switzerland, and you can see a lot of companies around, a lot of industrial, like I said, industrial infrastructures. And in this video I'll be taking you to what they call the dinosaur museum, the Sauria Museum Frick, which is located in Frick, Switzerland. I'd like to invite you to buy and get a copy of my new book, Essentialism and Self-Publishing, which is now available across ebook stores worldwide as an EPUB file. And if you're an aspiring writer or an aspiring author, this book will be a great guide for you to start your journey as a writer. And if you're the person who likes to have some structure in your life, and if you're this person who's into soulful writing experiences, this book is for you. So in this part, we're now entering the museum, and as you can see, there are lots of features around. And now, as you can see, there's a lot of things going on the moment I entered this museum, because first we pay the entrance, and the entrance is around 8 Swiss francs, and for 17 years old, starting from 17 years old will be 8 Swiss francs, and for kids 6 to 16 it costs 4 Swiss francs. So that's around 4 euros for kids 6 to 16 years old, and for adults from starting from 17 years old and above, it will be around 8 euro. And as you can expect from a dinosaur museum, you can see a lot of bones. You can see a lot of these authentic bones beautifully displayed on glass, and some were beautifully kept in its condition. And for example, in this one, we're allowed to touch it. We're allowed to feel the bone, the fossilized bone. And it was quite a surreal experience because I've never been to a museum like this. I don't think I could remember. And the time that I spent a lot of time in a museum, because there was not so much to see in a museum in our city, and I came from the southern Philippines, and the museum was just about the tribes and all that, and it was not something about science. In this case, it was quite a humbling experience to be in this place, because imagine dinosaurs. They've been here for 200 million years ago, and just to be in here, it's just feeling the energy of the room. It's like you are brought back in time to 200 million years ago. If you are the person who's into museums, I highly recommend you to visit this place. And if you're a writer, if you're an author, and then you like to expand your knowledge about your craft, you like to expand your understanding about the world, it's important for you to visit different places, to expose yourself to different stimuli, because it helps you craft different stories, craft out of this world plots, and it allows you to be fluid, not just planned. Okay, and as I've said in many of my videos, I've mentioned about fluid writing. And what it means is when you do fluid writing, you allow the senses to come into play with your writing process. So you're not really tied to the rules, you're not tied to anything that causes that stop, or any like something like what rules do. So because I don't allow so much rules to come into play in my writing process, I rely on my senses. I rely on what I see, what I hear, what I feel, and allow these things to come into play with my writing process. For example, in my first drafts, during my first draft, I am not really concerned about the grammar. I'm not concerned about the technical stuff. It's just free vomiting, and just like any vomit, you don't like to look at it, you just keep pouring it out, you just let it out. And in this, similarly, when I'm exposed to different stimuli, just like this, visiting to places like Frick Museum, which is, by the way, the only museum in Switzerland that features their unique Notatesseraeraptor Frickensis. I'm not sure if I've read it right. Notatesseraeraptor Frickensis, which was discovered around July 14, 2019, just a few years ago. So imagine, just a few years ago, they discovered another type of predatory. The first predatory dinosaur in Switzerland was discovered here. So it's important for writers, it's important for you as an aspiring writer, or if you're a person who likes to get serious into your writing and you want to figure out how I do my writing, how can I write so fast, how can I produce stories, how I'm doing all of these things as a self-publisher. This experience that I'm sharing with you, just a snippet of my life where I allow myself to experience different experiences. I allow myself to be exposed to such places like this, like museums, because it helps me. When I have a lot of experiences, there's a lot to alchemize, there's a lot to, if I'm writing fiction, if I like to write some fantasy, I have a lot of experiences already at my disposal, which I can use as an inspiration for my future works. Because the more I believe that the more I have accumulated experiences in my life, the better I will become as a storyteller. Because if I'm stuck in the house, or if I'm just, I rely on my intuition, it's kind of hard to make it realistic, and I like to be realistic. Although I'm writing fiction, I like to be realistic too in my writing, in my stories. So aside from exposing myself to different places like this, I do research, I read news, I listen to news, just to get more and more information, because I like to be really specific when developing stories. Because I don't just develop stories, I just don't ask what is it about. I want to understand the character's world, I want to understand his or her world. So the first thing that I like to do is to expose myself to different places like this, because how can I develop a better character if I'm me myself as an author don't have enough experiences to experience and understand his world? So it doesn't matter if, let's say, I'm in a museum. For sure I can't use this for let's say contemporary romance, but let's say in the future I have a character where he's like a curator. Then this experience, being in a museum, having that quick brief interaction with the museum, helps me a lot to understand how does the museum works, how is it to be in a museum. So by the time that I write the stories, I could just I could just simply imagine how is it, what did I see. So these are I don't necessarily use It doesn't matter like whatever experiences I have, like in variety actually. So I know that in the future I will be able excuse me, I will be able to use them in the future. So for now, I allow myself to just immerse in this world and be with this, like humbling experience with the dinosaurs. Because I was born in 1992, so it's like I was just on Earth for for 3 decades, and compared to this, it's like this brings me back to millions of years ago, which gives me then another perspective of the universe, which then affects the way I understand the world, and which then affects the way I write stories in the future, my perspective, my unique voice. Because aside from collecting all these experiences just to produce stories, I also collect these moments because I like to integrate the lessons that I learned from this into my life too. So you can say that my writing life and my professional life, my personal life are kind of meshed together. And right now, as you can see, I'm just enjoying this experience, and I'm sharing this snippet with you, and I hope that you enjoyed being with me and listening to my statements. I hope that you enjoyed listening to me in this episode. And before I end this episode, I'd like to invite you again to visit my website mgaspari.com, and if you are an aspiring writer, an author, and you like to know more about my writing philosophy and the process that I do in my writing, get my new book, Essentialism in Self-Publishing, which is now available on ebook retailers like Google Play, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, and so much more. You can see all of them on my website mgaspari.com, and the links are in the description. So I think that will be all for today, and see you in the next one. Cheers!